Well, maybe I'll go into the board break room and give them a last call.
Yeah.
There they come.
We're all here, we're just
Yeah, no,
gabbing, yeah, they're all gabbing.
Good morning, crew.
Good morning, Tony.
Hey. I love the perks of being a director for MST. You're doing pretty well there.
Excuse me?
You're sharing the meeting?
No, Mary Ann is.
Okay, I'll be, let her know I'll be right there.
Okay. Got the wrong one.
Oh, you look like you're running for something. What's up with that tie? Bro?
It's a constitution. It's just a legislative program in our.
Everyone's very sensitive.
My goodness.
Big time. I want this to be over.
I know.
I am so sick of it.
I love this season.
They come in blue. I'll have to buy a blue one.
I like red.
Do you have opponents?
I see it still are.
Don't look like a Houston Oiler.
Oh,
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
So-
Yeah, no, they're the, are they
really?
Texans?
Texans.
Yeah, because you're at large. Man, I just.
Don't make yourself like that.
Yeah, my gosh. I just
We're
slipped.
so
Lost it. We got 4 decades. More.
I think I just saw some gray hair sprout on that.
Yeah.
The ladies, well, no.
Before the air just. Just texted me. and said,
Yeah, let's Sure.
Okay, yeah,
November.
after the meeting.
We're like, they don't know each other, but we'll see.
Good morning.
We will see.
Need your signature after the meeting.
Is there another?
She won't be here.
She will.
Is Anna accepting?
Well, you know.
Anna,
Hanging out with
right?
you, but you sometimes-
Anna. I will be delivering it on Friday. There's a program that I will present.
Okay, I'll give this to you now, just so we're.
Okay. You're gonna take the risk that the board's gonna vote for it? Pretty good gamble.
Being married.
Okay, we are live. Computers are, or microphones are hot.
And we got Jeanette hand out one this here is my report.
Okay.
Is that a statement right there? Look at that. I like that. When you know who that is, you're right.
I know who that is.
That is awesome. That's rock and roll.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone to the November 4th, 2024 Monterey Salinas Transit District Board of Directors meeting. Today, the meeting is held here in, we are at 19 Upper Ragsdale Drive, Suite 100, and the public may attend via Zoom or here in person or by telephone, and those information is on the agenda. Public comments may be made either in person, Zoom, or email, and this is a gentle warning to the speakers that MST is committed to civility and is mindful of its responsibility to protect the work environment. To assure civility in its public meetings, the public is encouraged to engage in respectful dialogue that supports freedom of speech and values diversity of opinion. Failure to engage in respectful dialogue may forfeit the speaker's right to participate in public comments. With that, we will go ahead and move on to, I will call this meeting to order. And it's 10:04, and at this time, I would like to ask Mr. Pacheco if you would honor us in leading.
Madam Chair, we do roll call first.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I did this last time. We waited for Louis. Okay. With that, roll call, Jeanette.
Okay, City of Carmel by the Sea. City of Delray Oaks,
Here.
City of Gonzales.
Here.
City of Greenfield. Here. City of King.
Here.
City of Marina.
Here.
City of Monterey.
Here.
City of Pacific Grove.
Here.
City of San City. Here. City of Salinas.
We are here.
City of Seaside.
Here.
City of Soledad. County of Monterey.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I actually am thinking, Mr. Pacheco, are you a veteran?
No.
Okay, well,
You look like you were.
You look like a veteran.
I'm senior, but.
well, I would like to ask our director Barrera, since he's a veteran, if you would be honored in leading the pledge of allegiance.
The mayor of East Salinas. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you, directors, and I just wanted to start this meeting off in remembrance that we are going to be celebrating Veterans Day next week, so thank you for honoring
Supervisor
us.
Leo's father.
I think we have a couple even, Joe, are
Yeah,
you?
no, my dad was a World War II vet.
My husband's a veteran.
So to honor our veterans this month, so thank you. And with that, I will go to item 3, highlights of the agenda. Carl?
Thank you, Chair. On today's agenda, you will see among the various minutes, also a few items to a resolution of appreciation for State Senator Ana Caballero as she winds up her representation of this area due to changes in districts. And then an authorization for the CEO to enter into a contract with Blackout Cleaning Services. This is after your performance committee last month provided some guidance to the staff on that. Elsewhere on the agenda, we have a bus stop removal policy, and then the performance incentive for the general manager. And that really concludes it. There is no closed session, so it's a light agenda this month. So hopefully we won't go too long. You never know.
Yeah.
On our Veterans Day.
Well, thank you, Carl. With that, we'll move on to public comments on matters not on the agenda. And at this time, members are welcome to address the board on any matter that is not on the agenda. Items on the agenda, we will address at that time. We will open up public comment at that time. So at this time, public comment is open. I see someone here in the chambers, so welcome.
Good morning. I would like to address an ongoing issue with the bike racks on the bus line 20 from Salinas to Monterey. Currently, the bike racks on this route are usually full. Today on my way to Monterey, actually, I saw 2 people that were not able to come on board because the bike racks were full. So this not only is an inconvenience for the riders that will have to wait for the next bus, but it also disencourages the public from using both bikes and buses. So it's lose-lose for all cyclists and the buses. So to better accommodate the needs of the community, I suggest the increase of bike racks on the buses, maybe in the back, or increase of the line 20 that already needs to be increased in frequency, or dedicated bike buses, or even like having a policy for the drivers that somehow, like if right now, like the drivers, it's up to them if they will allow people to come with their bikes inside of the bus. So having like a policy that the people riding bikes will not be left behind, that could also be another suggestion. So implementing these changes would enhance accessibility for cyclists and encourage more sustainable transportation options. Thank you for considering my suggestions for improving the system.
Thank you. And your name?
Oh, okay. My name is Louisa.
Louisa, your last name, just so.
Okay, Louisa Herostad.
Okay,
Yes.
Jeanette, you have that?
HATLESTAD. I know, Herostad, yes. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And with that,
We have MST staff, Norman Tuatabuki, our Chief Operating Officer, can inform the person outside of our current policies and some of the restrictions that the California Highway Patrol places on our ability to have bike racks everywhere we might need them. So Norm, if you get a chance, Louisa, you can touch base.
okay, thank you. Thank you, Carl. And public comment is still open. I see no one in the, no others inside the conference room. Do we have anyone online? I don't see any hands. If you could please raise your hand motion if you would like to comment at this time. And I am not seeing anyone, so I will go ahead and close public comment on items not on the agenda. And with that, thank you for your comments. And I see Norm is getting with Louisa now. We will at this time move on to the consent item. And we have items 3.1 through 3.8. There are, as Carl spoke earlier, they're mostly draft minutes of either the financial report, the October 14th board meeting, the board operations performance committee meeting, draft minutes of the Monterey County Regional Taxi Authority, as well as the Mobile Advisory Committee on September 25th, along with the both resolutions for recognizing Natalie Flores and the resolution and appreciation for Anna Caballero. And then there is also the housekeeping on janitorial, which Carl remarked on. So at this time, does anyone have any comments or questions from the board regarding the consent agenda?
Just on one item, Madam Chair, and just, the recognition for Ana Caballero, I just wanted, as a board member, for us to thank her. Her district was changed 2 years ago, but she had requested to continue to represent the Salinas Valley for the last 2 years. But now, after this next election, Senator John Leonard would take over representing the entire Monterey County, and Ana's district is solely in the Central Valley now, near the Merced area. But I just wanted to thank her for that. I know our Ana Velasquez, who works for her, is not here today, but she's having her last farewell event at the Steinbeck Center on Friday at 2 o'clock. So that's just the last opportunity for the community to say thanks and to say one last goodbye.
And that's this Friday?
This Friday.
This
at 2
Friday.
This Friday at 2 o'clock, and I plan to be there to present the resolution.
All right, there you go. You
So-
yeah,
Right.
you didn't mention that earlier.
Yes.
And
Good for you.
And I'll check my calendar as well.
Right after the MCHA recognition luncheon, so it's one ends, the other,
Okay,
I got it all figured out.
okay.
Let me
And,
know if you need a ride.
okay, so if my calendar is clear, I will let you know and attend and maybe bring her some flowers or something. Something heartfelt, along with that resolution from our board. So,
Not the MCHA, I'm sorry, it's a different event on Friday prior to the MCHA event's on Wednesday, there's a different event on Friday, but we'll get
okay,
there.
yeah, that's right.
So you have a full social calendar.
This week, there's a lot of events going on.
Yeah.
There is.
So with that, any other comments? And thank you, Director Alejo, for your kind comments. And not seeing any, I will go ahead and open this up to the public for public comment on, is open on any items on the consent calendar. I'm not seeing anyone in the room or via Zoom. So I'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the board. There is a motion for approval. Well, I'm looking for a motion for approval. Okay, I have a first and a second. Jeanette saw that.
No,
Worthy,
Vallejo second.
Thank you.
Such a gentleman. No.
thank you, Luis.
We have a first and a second. And
Tony.
with that, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstain or any noes? And not hearing any, no abstentions, motion carries. Thank you. Will you, there is no public comment, so we'll go ahead and move directly to action items. 5.1, we have, number one, it will be, we're looking for approval of MST bus stop removal policy. Michelle Overmeyer is here, and you could find that item on page 45 in your agenda.
Good morning, board members. Michelle Overmeyer, Director of Planning and Innovation. This is an action item, so I will be asking for an approval of this policy at the end of my presentation. MST fixed route service allows passengers to board and alight the bus at over 900 designated bus stops in our service area. That service area has changed dramatically since 2019, and there are a number of locations now that we no longer serve, such as along Highway 1 into Big Sur, and then Highway 68 between here and Salinas. Past practice has been to remove the flag, which is the sign at the top of the pole, but leave the metal pole in place in case it's needed for future service. This allows MST to quickly reestablish a bus stop by returning the signage to the pole without having to do costly ADA upgrades to meet sidewalk requirements and other infrastructure improvements. So as you'll recall, we conducted the comprehensive operational analysis a couple years ago. We redesigned our transit network with the Better Bus Network. We now have an estimated 300 inactive bus stops in our area, and we're getting requests to remove those inactive poles, benches, shelters at these locations. These requests have come from MST board members and from private property owners nearby. Additionally, at times we get requests to remove active bus stops. Right now, we have no policy in place to guide staff with these requests for removing bus stops. So a cross-departmental team here reviewed the issue and developed a draft policy that provides a standardized process for reviewing these requests to permanently remove bus stops. The draft policy was presented to your Operations Performance Committee earlier this year. There was a robust discussion there at that committee around ADA upgrades and the committee's desire for MST to upgrade all of the active bus stops to meet current ADA requirements. Direction from the committee was for staff to begin surveying MST bus stops and estimate a cost for those ADA upgrades. Additional direction was provided from the committee to update this draft bus stop removal policy language to note that MST will negotiate with the local jurisdiction for future reinstallations that the local jurisdiction will need to cover in coordination with MST, and that the local jurisdiction would be required to fund the ADA improvements for the accessible paths of travel within their local jurisdiction. So if the policy is approved today, it will provide a consistent and objective approach for determining which bus stops to remove. So I do want to provide you with some additional context and why we have kept these safe harbor bus stops around. Page 49 in your agenda package provides information on the required bus stop dimensions that comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. The boarding and alighting area must be 96 inches at minimum, measured perpendicular from the curb, and a clear width of 60 inches minimum parallel to the vehicle roadway. So in more simple terms, that means the sidewalk needs to extend 8 feet back from the gutter and at least 5 feet along the side of the bus with no obstructions. I think we all know that older sidewalks in our communities don't meet the 8-foot wide requirement. And this is one reason that MST often has challenges in installing new bus stops. So attachment 1 also details requirements related to slope and connection to ADA paths of travel to streets and sidewalks. Attachment 2 in your package provides some examples of MST bus stops in our service area. For the purpose of this discussion, I'm labeling them as categories 1 through 3. Category 1 is a newer MST bus stop that meets the ADA standards and doesn't need any further improvements. So an example of this would be a newer stop we have in Marina at the Dunes Shopping Center. Category 2 is an MST bus stop located in an older neighborhood that might have sidewalks, but maybe the sidewalk isn't wide enough. Many times utility poles or other structures are in the way in the path of travel. So on page 51, you'll see an example in Monterey. In some cases, the sidewalk can be widened where the bus stop is by extending the sidewalk towards the street where, you know, an on-street parking space might be. And those are called curb extensions. Our experience over the last couple of years is that these sidewalk improvements cost at a minimum $50,000 to do those curb extensions. And then finally, category 3 is bus stop, usually in the rural areas, and it's simply a pole that's in the dirt and the weeds. On page 52, there's an example there in the unincorporated area in Prunedale. There's no sidewalk at all. To bring these locations up to the ADA standard would involve a very comprehensive roadway infrastructure project for sidewalks, and those would cost over $100,000 per location. So we have 960 active bus stops once the Gonzales and Soledad circulators get put in. Over the last several months, my team has been surveying all of the MST bus stops. We're almost done. We still have a few more to do, but we've surveyed about 90% of the bus stops, the active bus stops. So of those active bus stops, 71% are generally compliant with ADA, and 29% don't comply with the current ADA requirements. So for category 2, 86 fall under that category, and then there are about 165 category 3 stops. So most of the category 2 are in Salinas, and then the category 3 that need the most work are in the unincorporated area and then Carmel by the Sea. I guess the good news is that most jurisdictions have more compliant stops than non-compliant stops. But the bad news is the cost to upgrade all of these. So to bring all the active bus stops to current ADA standards, we're estimating about $20.8 million. And I do want to note that MST does not employ any licensed engineers, so these are very rough estimates and they're likely underestimated. So because the bus stop improvements are so expensive, like I said, we've had the practice of keeping the poles in place and then just putting a flag back on if we do reactivate a location. And we had to do this when we did the Better Bus Network. So having those poles in place helps us restore service quickly. We do continue to get requests for removing inactive and active bus stops, which brings us to where we are today. So the draft bus stop removal policy starts on page 53 in your agenda package. And some highlights of that policy. All jurisdictions must submit the request to MST in writing, and it should be consistent with their adopted general plan, including the circulation element, and acknowledge the local jurisdiction's responsibility to engage with MST to develop a mutually agreeable process should that location need to be restored in the future. So this means MST will not entertain requests from private property owners. All the requests have to be official from your jurisdiction. Additionally, your jurisdictions must be willing to reimburse MST for expenses associated with removing the stop. And this might include time, materials, encroachment permit fees. So when a request comes in, staff will evaluate that request for things like safety and liability for MST and its customers, past usage, the utility of the stop for special events, and the proximity to land uses that might generate the need for a bus stop in the future. Staff will provide your board or its designee with a recommendation to approve or deny the request. Staff's evaluation of the request will include an analysis of any negative impacts to low-income and minority populations. Any approval for permanent bus stop removal would be via an adopted board resolution, noting that future reinstallations will be subject to negotiation and mutually agreeable terms, including and up to the local jurisdiction covering 100% of the ADA upgrade costs to the city or county-owned paths of travel. So at this time, I'd like to recommend that your board approve this bus stop removal policy. I
Thank
can
you,
answer
Michelle.
questions.
And I'll go to the board for questions. Michael?
A couple. So first, you mentioned when you were talking about the ADA compliant portion, you said the jurisdiction would be responsible for whatever portion would be outside of the stop. So I would imagine the curb, if it wasn't ready for it, we would have to pay for that to get it ready for the bus stop ADA compatible.
In some cases, a bus stop might be located near an intersection that doesn't have curb cuts
Okay.
at the corner, so the jurisdiction would have to pay for that, and then making sure that the sidewalk connects, from the intersection to the bus stop. Because
And
that's
that would
outside
be-
of MST's area.
And then, so if that upgrade was to happen, discussion would happen internally between both the city, the jurisdiction and you to see if it was feasible.
Right.
Secondly, when you're going through the when you're going through the designation of 1, 2, and 3 on the bus stops, ones that need ADA work, will there be a prioritization portion of it where we could, if we had the ability to go out for grants, we could say we want to get these 4 or 5 done? Because 20 million would be a tough grant to get. And you're right, that's just, I think it'd be way more than that.
So we're planning to include this in a future capital improvement program for MST. Right now it's unfunded. And it makes sense to go after improvements for like the low hanging fruit, the ones that are cheaper to improve. And yeah, I think we would phase it that way. We would approach the stops that need the least amount of work first to get those done.
Okay, and then look, I'm in favor of keeping as many stops in place, even if they're inactive, because the ability to reactivate them is so much easier than trying to put in a new stop, because that's so much more work. But on the bus removal policy, generally definitely in favor of what you have in place. My only concern would be when it's just the jurisdiction requesting it. So what I see is a community member goes to their local jurisdiction, they advocate, we'd like to have this removed, we need you to submit the paperwork. But if that jurisdiction doesn't want to do it for whatever reason, it could be they don't have the time for it. It doesn't mean it's not a valid concern. I feel there should be some process where if they've tried multiple times, that at that point, they can't get their jurisdiction on board, that they should be able to submit one with some kind of documentation, because it really takes out their voice from our board. And while the jurisdiction has to do a lot of that work, they can't be the backstop from hearing input and having people on their own submit requests. But we don't want to be inundated with requests. So I would ask that you look at some way to create a mechanism where if they engage with their city council 3 times and they're not getting anywhere, and their city council has to provide some kind of reason why they're not doing that. That at that point, then they can submit a request directly to, and then go through the evaluation process. Just for your consideration, I know that's tough, but we also represent everyone in the county. And we can't have one jurisdiction taking away their voice because they're not willing to do the work, or they don't agree with that, or it could even be down to they just don't like the person. So we can't be in that position. That's just that's all.
It's, I mean, what the issue that we've been dealing with and actually been dealing with it this past year is that, you know, if the staff of a city doesn't have direction from their council, we just can't, we don't own the sidewalks, we don't own the street. And so it's been exceedingly difficult for us to either install or deinstall when staff doesn't have clear direction from their council. So that's, I think, you know, an impetus of this is it keeps MST from running up against the wall with local jurisdiction staff when they don't have clear direction from their own council on this.
Then maybe some language that how can I put, they still need to be able to come to this board and submit in writing something that says that we want this done. I've tried with my council because every member of any jurisdictions on this board. And then we can have that conversation with the different jurisdictions. Why aren't they working with your staff? What are the issues? Because my only problem is that you're putting it into a local jurisdiction when this is not a local jurisdiction agent for that decision. And I understand what you're saying, but there is a conflict there. And I know they can come up here for public comment, but that's different from the ability to submit a written request.
Is there, I'm going to look to council for this, is there a way
I'm sorry.
for
We have
someone
all the time
to
to
appeal their
Until
local,
you-
to appeal their local jurisdiction's decision to the Monterey County, to this MST?
Called a recall.
So to answer directly, not that I'm aware of at this
Okay.
point, we can certainly try to navigate that way, but to your point, this is a way for MST to handle outside requests to remove bus stops. This does not prevent people from coming up to the dais, requesting, letting you hear it, letting you direct Carl to review a bus stop and bring it back for consideration. And it doesn't prevent MST staff from unilaterally
Okay.
reviewing stops to determine whether or not they need to be removed as well. Again, that would all come back to the board anyways. This is a way to mitigate those third-party demands that have been bombarding MST staff and providing a process saying, go to the city first, because we need to have that guarantee that there's gonna be, collaboration between the agency that owns the property and the district that owns the stop. And so that's what we're trying to meld together in this policy. And I'm just, based off your comments, I don't see how we could add that, 3 strikes at the city, then come to us, because that just,
Okay.
I just don't see it. But
If I
Well,
can add,
if I have assurance, if so that did happen and they came into public comment.
Yeah.
Then there would be nothing in the policy that would preclude MST from initiating the review, the evaluation.
There's nothing in this policy that takes discretion away from the board to direct staff to do what the board wants staff to do. So if the board says, do this,
But we can't do that during public comment.
yeah, we can bring it back. We can, comes in public comment and you say, staff, bring this back next month, and they'll bring it back next month, like we do now.
All right.
I don't see it changing how this board interacts with staff. What it does is it changes how the city and staff interact with each other so that we know we're all on the same page, because we've gotten
No, I
off the same
understand that.
page.
Thank you for listening.
I'd like to bring something up, and then I'll go to Joe and then back over here to Ed and to Tony.
And, I'll help you.
So Joe,
I got it.
okay. So, just before I forget, and then we'll go, down here. But, I wanted to bring up, I see that you have the different categories. So staff looked at the different categories. And that it's about a third of our bus stops that is affected here. I'm wondering, how does AB 413 impact this? And AB 413 is the recent legislation or policy that we are implementing. That correct, Carl?
Yeah, that's.
That is right before the intersections, that you can't have bus stops or blockage or vehicles parked near there. So were some bus stops gonna be taken away? Just with that, have you looked at that too, or as a part of these numbers? So just throwing it out there, and then we'll go back to
Great question.
So,
So that
Great
was,
timing.
that was included in my staff's survey. So we are collecting that information, and this is the intersection daylighting law that recently took effect and becomes enforceable in January. So there's no stopping within 20 feet of the approach of an intersection, or 15 feet if it has a bulb out or curb extension. So my team was measuring that as they were doing the survey. I don't have those numbers in this presentation, so that's kind of a separate issue.
And importantly, the law does allow each city or regulating agency to, by ordinance, exempt buses to have that. And what that would be, what that would look like is a single ordinance that would come, that would list all the bus stops that were affected, that you would then grant that authority for them to park within that distance.
okay. Thank you. Okay.
Joe.
Thanks. Thank you for your presentation. So, I have a couple of questions. Were the, for example, Public Works Director or the city managers, for the county or Monterey included on the decision-making on this? I have a couple more questions.
So in drafting the policy, we had staff from different departments within MST collaborate on the language, and then it was presented to your operations performance committee. We did not take it out to the individual cities.
And then, let's see, I'm just looking at a couple of your pictures here. For example, Cass and Hartnell, City of Monterey, were there buses picking up people at that stop?
Yes. It's an active bus stop.
But it's gonna be removed?
No.
No.
This was just included as an example of one of the locations that could use some ADA improvements.
I see. And the ADA improvements is by, for example, that would have to happen with the City of Monterey.
Well, in this location, you can see there's a utility pole and then some sort of anchor structure that are within the sidewalk, blocking the path of travel. And yeah, that would be within the city's jurisdiction to improve, because MST doesn't own that.
And then I have to be direct on this. Any buses removed from Pacific Grove?
Bus stops.
Yeah.
So we regularly get a request from a property owner in Pacific Grove to remove an active bus stop that is in use now. The individual is not a bus rider himself, but has requested that it be removed. And so this policy would help us have some sort of objective approach to analyzing that removal. As far as removing stops, we may have taken some out that became inactive when we did the Better Bus Network. We haven't had any recent bus stop removals that I can think of right now.
I just feel that I know staff has to decide on what they have to do, but I think it's important to contact either the county or the cities to be included in what's going to be happening here. But on the positive note, I know this is really sort of Carl, I have been away for a couple of weeks between council meetings in the Midwest, but coming back, those bus stops painted blue are outstanding. I just wanted to let you know that. And since we're talking about bus stops. And that's my comment.
Okay,
Ed.
thank you. We'll go to Ed and then, you'll be after Director Shirley.
Okay.
Thank you. So my question is, I don't want to go through all 900 or the ones that you know that need action. But I'm wondering, does this policy have a place where the board does not have to be involved in a decision to take out a retired location and a pole or equipment that is of no use, but it's no longer an active bus? Because by reading this, it sounds as though you are saying in the policy that all action that you take would have to come to the board. And I don't think I'm interested in having to give you an approval on an abandoned, no longer used bus stop that has a pole, but the bus is not stopping there, and we've got a pole that needs to be removed. If it's just simply a maintenance of removing a pole, it seems like that's something that the board shouldn't have to give you authority to do. So I'm wondering, is there some way that we can afford staff the direction in this policy where when you're taking out a benign location where it's just a leftover pole, does that really have to come to this board for action? And if it does have to come to this board, why do we want to have that level of scrutiny?
So through the chair, I can direct some of those concerns. So
Yeah.
staff, we did have an in-depth conversation about that.
Yeah.
And it could fall within staff authority. The concern is, once you give up that property interest, to bring it back could be very costly to the district. So staff would like the board's buy-in when they are giving up a location, knowing that there may be a future cost. That being said, it shouldn't bog down meetings of the board, because this could easily be something that's placed on consent when the district is in agreement with the, with the position to remove it. And then it could always be pulled from consent for additional discussion. But I think that was the approach from staff at this time, which was giving up that pole, if we need it in the future, could be very costly. The over $100,000 to get an ADA compliant stop versus maintaining something that is free to the district.
Okay, so I want to clarify, by holding on to a pole that's not necessarily currently being used, it's no longer a bus stop.
Sorry?
Some soothing music.
To soothe your question.
I feel so happy I don't have any more. So to the lawyering piece, is it because MST has acquired an encroachment permit from the jurisdiction? And as long as that is still currently held, that gives us more latitude within the law of ADA for having to draw new permitting or new pathway of applications.
Correct, because it wouldn't, it's a deactivated stop, it's not
Yeah.
a new stop. So once we reactivate it, it's still grandfathered into the old law, which would require it, doesn't require it to be ADA accessible.
Okay,
If we gave up the stop and then needed to put a stop in the exact same.
it all starts
location,
over.
It starts over.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And we don't do this often. I mean, we did the Better Bus Network was the first major redesign in some 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So we do, a couple times a year, we do service tweaks and modifications. And it's when those service modifications, if it comes to the board's direction, we could just include that in the board report. This service
Yeah.
modification will include the deactivation of the following stops or removal of the following stops, and we could handle it administratively that way
Yeah.
and bring it to your board as part of another action. It's not something that will be coming to your board monthly, but we do have some persistent individuals in the community who just don't want, a bus stop on their block. There are some folks, the bus stop's not in front of their home. It's in front of a neighbor's home or in front of somewhere on their block, and they just don't want the bus there, and they will pepper staff with requests to remove the bus stop, and we're just looking for some policy guidance. In this case, that it will come from the city, not from the jurisdiction or the business directly.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Otherwise, I think they all should go to Joe. Just kidding.
Thank you, Ed. Director, Tony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In talking about clear direction, like Mrs. Dorick is saying. I think the council and Salinas put me here, if there's issues with the jurisdiction of Salinas, I would like to know. If there's a constituent, a property owner that's not happy with something we're doing or not doing. As a board member, I would like to know, because I like to be engaged with the individual.
We can speak after this meeting.
Yes. Well, see, in clear direction, because otherwise, what's my role here? Because I really don't know. You know, one of the things I was thinking as I was hearing you, Ms. Obermeyer, Salinas, we're doing some new roads. My question is, as we're doing these new roads and there's a bus stop, in clear communication, is the city letting you know, hey, guess what? We're gonna be doing Williams Road here pretty soon, and you have 3 or 4 bus stops. Do you folks work like that, or? See, because otherwise, that's where I can see it could be cost effective. As we're doing this new road, then we apply the bus stop the way it should be versus is there enough space, enough room? But if we're not communicating, you know, sometimes I'll be honest with you, I mean, I've told you in the past, if you're having issues with the police department or something like that, I would like to know, because I feel that's my role. And Mr. Sidoric has told me, if we need you, we'll let you know. Well, in these issues, we're getting ready to do Williams Road, which is a main corridor, and there's bus stops there. We're getting ready to do Baranda Road, and there's bus stops there. I mean, these are $1 million projects. We just did Independence Road, another several $1 million, but I don't know, there's bus stops there. So I think we're missing out. If we have to do this while we're doing the road, hey, let's do the bus stop. That way it'll cost us less.
No, those are great comments. My team back here in the back row has been monitoring city council agendas, projects that are going on, the public works projects, and we comment if it's a project, a roadway project that might impact bus stops, because we try to get the improvements put in at the time that the city is doing it. Sometimes we miss these or they're not brought to our attention. An example was last week, we learned that the county has a roundabout project that's in early design in Prunedale, but at this point, they don't have funding to upgrade the bus stop that might get removed with the project. So we'll be working with the county on that.
Ms. Overmeyer, then I don't feel like I'm doing my due diligence as a board member here if I can't be helpful. Baranda Road's gonna have 3 roads. So I think MST should know. You know what has irked me before? Is when I hear we're either having a grito or the Veterans Parade and MST is not notified or whatever the event is. And then all of a sudden at the last minute, you guys gotta scramble how to make a new route for that event. I don't know if that's a true statement or not.
It
stuttering.
depends on the city. I mean,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
oftentimes the cities let us know weeks ahead of time.
Okay. Is Salinas one of those?
I'm not aware of any issues with Salinas at this point.
Great.
No issues.
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
It would be your city manager's responsibility. Get on your city manager.
We have a good communication between, especially public safety is oftentimes responsible for those detours instead of public works.
Yeah.
So we have pretty good communications there.
I'll say all of the cities.
Yeah, I'm not, you know, sometimes you think there's too many parades.
Thanks.
You know,
Which one would you like to cut?
we'll talk after this meeting. It's not in your
We
city.
got one coming up next week. Well, that means, I'll shut up. That makes me feel great that there's good communication. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ferrera. We'll move over to Director
I
Shirley.
think Director Chaco, did you?
Either way.
So I had a question. I'm sort of trying to understand where the ADA component comes in and the bus removal, because I feel like these are 2 separate issues. I mean, the ADA compliance comes in, it sounds like if a bus stop is removed and then you wanna put it back, then you have to deal with ADA. But in terms of the actual removal, that's not part of the evaluation. You're not looking at a bus stop and saying, oh, it's not ADA compliant, so I'm more likely to remove this. So I guess I'm just trying to understand, I feel like we need to kind of separate those issues a little bit. I mean, again, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like the ADA compliance only comes into effect is if you want to put a bus stop back in.
Right.
Right? That's where the biggest concern is. So we did the Better Bus Network a couple years ago. And that process should be done every 5 to 10 years. So our network might be different in 5 to 10 years from now. We might need to operate on different roadways, roadways that currently have inactive bus stops, but they may need to be activated when we change the network in the future. And so if we remove those inactive bus stops right now that don't meet ADA requirements, then for MST to put service back in the future, we need to make sure the sidewalk is wide enough, that there's, the curb ramps at the corners. But if you don't remove it now, but it's not an active stop, but then it becomes an active stop, you don't have to make it ADA. We've considered those safe harbor stops, and that's why we have so many locations with just a pole in them. Right, yeah. Right.
But as part of the robust discussion that happened earlier this year at the operations committee, the question was raised, why would MST offer any service that's not ADA compliant if you're truly in the ADA? And you heard 20 million plus reasons. It doesn't come. We could, and your board could direct us to say, we want you in 5 years to make every stop ADA compliant. It's going to be at a cost of some, tens of millions of dollars. And, we don't know that, again, in areas we don't control, particularly in the county areas where there's, Caltrans roads and things like that, it becomes very, very difficult. So those are real questions that we need to answer.
Yeah. So my next question or last question is that requests are coming from jurisdictions. So I'm wondering if MST is going to provide jurisdictions with any criteria that you would like to see the jurisdictions evaluate. I mean, as a jurisdiction, they may not have the right questions to ask about whether, oh, this is a good, stop to remove. It just seems like MST would have some good information to give to the jurisdictions to help them evaluate of whether this request is valid or not. So usually if a request comes in from a jurisdiction, it's because they want to restore on-street parking. And so when the request comes in, then MST would analyze those areas that are spelled out in the policy and provide that information back to the city. Yes, it is served, or that area is a low-income community. Maybe this isn't the best place to remove a stop because it might be needed in the future. So then that disapproval would come at the MST level as opposed to the jurisdiction saying, well, no, we know MST is going to deny this because of X, Y, and Z. So we are going to stop it at this level first. So one of the requirements is when the request comes in, they have to verify that their request is consistent with their general plan and their circulation element. So they should be doing that work ahead of time.
Okay, thank you. Director Pacheco.
I think I agree with Mayor LaBarre. I'm concerned that sometimes it's hard, at least in our city, for a resident to get something on the agenda because they're done prior and the timeline to take action when a resident may have something that's common sense approach and should be allowed to come to this board somehow to expedite the process, as government is not known for quick action or action at all.
Thanks.
Except for swings, of course. My other concerns, and I thought I had taken care of it, maybe I didn't. In Seaside, there's a lot more cars than parking, and we talked about that earlier. So every time that there's in 5 to 10 years, when you change the routes, possibly there's going to be spots with parking. I mean, MST's red stripe where cars can't park there, which they normally can. So I kind of sort of get that on a personal level, but then I think I heard you say the process will be, and maybe I'm just referring to Seaside, is that they're going to have to the city council or leadership will have to petition the MST board, and they'll have to provide all that information. Then it has to come to the MST board, and I just can't. I'm sure all our staff are busy for the unless it's a huge issue where the city council, at least our council, seeing something that may be obvious where it impacts 4 or 5 neighbors and our residents just shut up because that's what they do. So I'm concerned about the process of often bureaucracy gets in the way of action. And if they have to go to the city council for action and just wait when parking is limited, because on a lot of our streets, sometimes our residents have to park a block lower because of activity. Just the process just seems to bother me, as far as getting the council to approve it and then to come here for like you guys all to meet and confer and the fees. It just seems like government in action and the way it operates, and I can't support that, but I mean, on a personal level.
So, we're not asking, I don't think we're requiring that it be a city council action. We're saying
Okay.
it's from the city, so it can come from your city staff, public works, city manager, whatever their authority is.
Okay.
And remember, I have purchasing authority up to $150,000. So if it's one of these lower cost items that I have my authority to do, I could just handle it with the authority you've given me, or you can grant me more authority for these types of items. There is a way to streamline the administrative for the what we'll call lower cost items that are within staff's authority, and then only those items that exceed my authority or we anticipate it to exceed the authority in the future, a major roadway reconstruction as a result of this, that would then have to come to the board to cover, make sure that staff has appropriate approval for the future. So remember, your staff and MST staff has authority to act at certain levels.
So it's not necessarily city council action
No,
as a whole.
not on every item.
Okay.
Only on those items,
That are sickly, okay, that's better. Okay,
how
thank
much
you.
did the Catino stop eventually cost us? And
Yeah, installing that one, I think was maybe around $80,000.
okay, so even that was within my authority. It's just really,
Okay, that's better.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay.
Lots of authority there, huh?
Oh,
Money doesn't go as far as it used to.
that's right.
Director Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for the report, especially with the photos were very clarifying. And thank you for having included the Doen Shopping Center. It's walking distance from the soon to open Trader Joe's. So, but my first question is, what is the bus stop installation policy?
Installing new bus stops. Along an existing route, we look at the spacing of current bus stops. We don't want them to be too close. And then with the designing for transit guidelines is linked in my staff report. So you can see the limitations we have to work with. So we prefer a far side stop. We want to make sure we're past the intersection. We need the sidewalk needs to be wide enough to put in a new bus stop. So there's different features we look at for requests for new bus stops.
And we share that designing for transit with the cities and public works staff.
It's on our website, and we did work through the TAMC Technical Advisory Committee, which you all have representatives on before we did approve that.
But there's no board approval necessary for the installation of a bus stop.
Not at this time.
So for me, that's unequal. How could we have a removal policy if we don't have a similar installation policy, especially if money is involved? Because of course you knew what I was going to address. And if the cities can be required to pay for the removal, even if the MST staff initiates the request, I think that's unequal, that there's something not right there.
I don't know if that's the way it was intended. I think the intention was for the city to pay for removal costs if it was a jurisdiction initiated removal.
Okay, I don't see that in the policy here. So that might be something that needs to be clarified. It's always about money.
And we looked at that. All right.
Sure.
So, and for the rest, I'm totally in favor of having a policy.
It's just this minor cost issue that I have, and we all speak about our own cities, of course, and in Marina, I was happily surprised when I found out that there was an inactive bus stop with just a pole at a location where I thought it would be good to have a future bus stop, and it will be so easy, and now one of those locations already was reinstalled recently, so that's a good thing. But I do have a question about what is the maintenance policy for the inactive bus stops? Because I think if we have inactive bus stops, we should still make sure that they are in good condition.
We don't have a regular preventive maintenance schedule for bus stops that are inactive. So we respond to observations that we make either in the field by ourselves or through operators or through operations. So weeds, things like that. If we have to trim them, we'll trim them back, but
It's all complaint based,
that's right.
but
yeah.
but if there's a complaint, there will be action taken to.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we see it as one of our properties, basically.
Yes. Yeah, it's one of my pet peeves, you know, we should have a long-term maintenance plan, but if complaint based, especially for the inactive bus stops, if that's what it is, I can live with that. And thank you for forgotten, you also said we need to communicate with cities. Because I don't know, for Marina, we have the Del Monte Boulevard road diet plans. Was MST informed about that by staff, and did you work together?
Yeah, we provided
good.
comments.
Perfect, see, Marina is good too. So so thank you, those are my questions, and thank you again for the very good report.
Madam Chair, just to address one aspect of Director Fisher's comments. If this is an MST driven process to remove a bus stop, our policy doesn't require for the cities to pay 100% of the ADA. It requires that we enter into a resolution with mutually agreeable terms and conditions up to and including 100% of paying. But obviously, I think that what would be stated is if MSC is driving that process forward, we're requiring them to pay for what we want.
Exactly.
And it would be coming to the board as a resolution anyway, so you'd have your time to make your comments if there was issues.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from the board at this time?
No.
I-
Everyone's asked the
Okay.
question.
Okay. All right, well, with that, let's go ahead and take this out to the public for public comment. Public comment is open.
Anyone with their hand raised
Okay.
online?
We have someone in the
Oh, okay.
conference here. Oh,
Oh.
you're fine.
Okay. I guess it's really good to have a policy, because, but I guess like the bigger picture, as she said, is that like, why are we even talking about closing? Like, we should be talking about opening more stops and incentivize, like, and having more people to ride the buses. So spending so much time talking about like closing of the stops. It's, you guys have the data of which stops are currently being used. So like using a very data-driven decision is very powerful. Like we have data on everything. We have data on like your heartbeats, on everything. So like data should be how you're making the decisions of what gets closed and what doesn't. And then like if you see that some buses are not being used, also raise the question of why are they not being used? And because it, I see here that like during this conversation, we were talking about a food stamp being implemented with the buses, and it's in talking about like low income communities that ride the buses, but it's like everybody should ride the bus, right? Like we are talking about global warming, we are talking about like being environmentally friendly. Also parking is hard, and it is not so safe to drive, right? So there are so many reasons to ride the bus that we should not just be focusing on like, I mean, it's very important to focus on low income, but like it should be an inclusive decision with everybody and incentivize all people to ride the bus, not just a specific class our income level. Thank you. Luisa Herusel.
Thank you for your comment.
You hire her?
Yeah. And public comment is still open. I see no others at the dais
I'll move
and
approval.
no one
Second.
online. I called for a motion.
Motion
We
by
have a
Vallejo,
first
second by
and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your staff report. We will move on to the next item, item 5.2, and this is. This is me, so let me find the page here. Which
57.
Page 52nd, and this is approval of the recommendation of the general manager CEO performance evaluation incentive pay of 5% for the general manager. And I will give the report. So looking for approval of the recommendation for the general manager CEO performance evaluation. Incentive pay of 5% and the wages fiscal impact or the wages are included in the approved budget. The policy implications are that the board negotiated and approves the wages and benefits of the general manager, CEO. And this action is consistent with the current contract with the GM CEO, which states incentive pay shall be paid to all to employee based upon performance in accordance with achievement of board adopted goals. And in August of 2024, each member of the board of directors reviewed and evaluated the performance of Carl Sidoric, general manager, and as it pertains to both the agency goals and incentive individual goals. Subsequently, Carl, the board of directors met and discussed Carl's performance in closed sessions in September and October of 2024, and it was discussed through evaluating his performance that the board chair recommends a MST board approval of 5% incentive pay for Carl Sidoric in open session at the November board meeting, which is now. So at this time, I will just go ahead and open it up to directors if you have any questions and comments.
I think we talked about it
You
quite a
guys
bit.
got it. And I'd like to thank Director Worthy for sitting in for me at the last meeting. I was here, I was engaged at another, Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yes.
Thank you. So thank you, Lorraine. So with that, if there are no comments or questions here at the board, Director Alejo.
Comments from my colleagues. I think we all think highly of our esteemed executive director, who's done, I think, a very good job. One of the most effective leaders for a transit agency in the state of California, if not our country. So I want to give all accolades. I do respect him. I think he's done a good job, always on the cutting edge of a lot of new policies and innovations. But on this year, when every time this comes up, I always decline to support, not because I don't think he merits this. It's just on the percentage. I think we give an incentive pay to our employees of about 3%. If it was in line with what we're giving our other employees, I would support it. But this is a few percentages higher, a couple of percentages higher, and 3% for Carl is not the same for 3% for the rest of the employees. So just because of that, I won't support this motion today, but I did want to just say why. And I put on record that I believe Carl has been doing a very effective job serving MST.
Thank you, Director Alejo.
Sure. Yeah, we had great conversations about this and the concept. And one thing is I wanted to point out for, I know you all know this, but the public, for them to hear this, but this is actually one of the elements of the contract that we have with Mr. Sidoric is that this each year is evaluated by the board. And so the reason we're doing this is because his contract says that we will evaluate this each year, and then there's the ranges. I too was an advocate for less than 5%. And I too have nothing but great things to say about Mr. Sidorik and his performance. When I looked at his evaluations, when I look at seeing the way he interacts and who performs, seeing it at the conference, the presentation, there's no hits on the performance whatsoever. This is just a value in terms of which has already been mentioned by one of the board members. The 5% is just too high for me. I advocated for lower. And I still feel the same way, and I can't change the arguments that I made for that. I just think with this current time frame of where we are and where our employees are at with their economic difficulties, I think 5% is at the high, and it's the maximum. So I advocated for something lower than 5%, but for that reason, I can't support it.
Okay, thank you, Director Pacheco.
Can I make a motion to approve the 5%?
Oh, you can, but I think I see still another hand, some comments, and then can we come back to you?
Sure.
Okay.
It was more a clarifying question, because I want to make sure I understood it. The scale is different though for our CEO than for staff, right? And 3 is the midpoint for him. His scale was
That's correct.
3 to 7, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
So 3 is in the middle, so I want to make sure that we acknowledge that it's a different scale that we're working with when we're talking about employee incentive pay and the CEO incentive pay. Because I admittedly felt the same way that my colleagues here did, but then putting it in that perspective where it's actually for the CEO, the middle of the scale, that made a difference.
We talked about
That is correct, and just through the chair to clarify, for the employee incentive pay, that is up to 3%, and the board did elect to provide that 3% direction. For the GM's contract, that is a percentage scale between 3% and 7% that was negotiated, and the current recommendation is 5%, which is minimum.
Right, so it's not.
Thank you, Director. Director Amelia.
Thank you. Originally, I had indicated below 5%. However, yeah, I always have to look at the whole picture. And I'm just going to use a couple of examples. The surf project. Carl did an outstanding job. That's just one example when he was presented at the Coastal Commission. There's been other areas that he's shown excellent performance in. I do now, as I've looked at the whole picture of his performance, I will indicate the 5%.
Thank you, Director.
Do we need to go around the room and see who did and didn't approve 5%? Just asking the question.
Is it?
Asking for a friend?
Asking for a friend.
Is it, let's go to Director Guerrero.
Madam Chair, I agree with Director Worthy that we beat this thing up, but let me.
But-
No, hold on, because we're talking about employees. We don't want employees to get a thought of that this board is not supporting employees, because we are wholeheartedly supporting employees. But Mr. Sidorik is in a position where he's responsible for this entire organization.
Exactly.
That's a daunting task, and with the wonderful staff that he's put together, a team to run MST, it's critical. But I want to let the employees know, and those that are hearing us as well, we are here to support the entire staff. But Mr. Sidorik is an individual that he's at will from this board here. And I think in supporting employees, we also need to support Mr. Sidorik, because I've been to a couple of state and national transportation meetings. MST is on the map. I mean, people look to this small agency, even big agencies, look to the effectiveness of this agency. And this man here that's in front of us, he's responsible for all this. And I want to say I do support this 5%. And we also support the employees when they're at full raise as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm done.
Thank you,
As well.
Director Barrera. Anyone else?
I will say something as well. I'm just gonna ditto Director Barrera's remarks. We do value all employees here at MST. We have actually in Carl's position, we need some leadership here that needs to lead the agency, and I think Carl has done an exemplary job and is quite an outstanding job. And you heard, I won't go into any more because Director Barrera already commented on the same thing I would be saying, so that's where I come from. So with that, if there's no more directors, I'm gonna open it up to public comment. So with that, public comment is open.
No one in public comment.
Okay, and no one on the inside. I will, here in the conference room, one last call for public comment. And I will go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the board. There is a motion, a recommendation and a motion for a 5% CEO evaluation incentive fee.
Who made the motion?
I'm looking for a motion, sorry. I'm talking to myself. Pacheco made the motion. Okay, we have Pacheco and we have a second. Do you want to get involved? Okay. So we have a first and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
No.
And we have that, Jeanette, you have the nays?
Okay, so I have a first by Pacheco, the second by, was it Barrera?
Emilio.
Amelia?
And then a nay by Smith and Alejo.
That's right.
Correct.
Dynamic duo.
And
Could be from the same family.
You're gorgeous, you're beautiful.
with that, I'll go ahead and we have the count, I believe that we have, can you say?
Madam Chair, the motion does pass,
There we go.
9-2-2.
Okay,
with
thank
Director
you.
Smith, Alejo dissenting, and Directors Barron and Velasquez absent.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you all. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to recognitions and special presentations. 6-1, a month of November Employee of the Month, Natalie Flores and Emma. Is Emma Patel here? Emma is going to give us come up and as well as our employee, Natalie. Welcome.
Good morning, Emma Patel, Planning Manager. I'm pleased to recognize Natalie Flores, Associate Planner, as our November 2024 Employee of the Month. Natalie began her career at MST in early 2023, and she quickly became an integral part of the planning department. Natalie received her degree from UC Davis in environmental policy and planning. And with her background and knowledge, she's been instrumental in analyzing policies and helping determine where MST services can be incorporated into these policies. She's also the City of Salinas, MST's representative for the City of Salinas's General Plan Steering Committee. Earlier this summer, when we found ourselves short-staffed, Natalie stepped up to prepare a grant for over $1 million, requesting improvements to passenger amenities. Despite never having worked on a grant application before, she didn't shy away from this challenge. And instead, she quickly familiarized herself with the process and dedicated countless hours to researching, collaborating, and refining this application. Her hard work paid off because MST recently secured this funding. Natalie is not only hardworking and dedicated, but she's consistently a positive influence to her colleagues. She's always ready to lend a helping hand, and she's always there to encourage others, and she shows a genuine passion for her work and a dedication to collective success. Please join me in congratulating Natalie.
Yeah.
Go Aggies.
Any birds? Oh, Louise got me on that one. I was gonna say that. Yeah, go Aggies.
I just want to thank MST for this award, and then also want to thank my team who's in the back row. They're amazing to work with and they inspire me every day.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all right. All you have to do is say good morning to her and she flashes this smile, the $1.6 million smile. So her first grant, she scored a big win for us. So just do them all like that. That's all. So I want to give you your Employee of the Month pin. And it's been a while since I've been able to do this, but here's your resolution and plaque, but also your check.
Hey,
I have a picture with their board chair and Emma, come on.
$100.
Does anyone else from your team want to join you in your photo? Come on up.
Whole team.
It's the whole team.
I know, Carl, did you give a percentage of that, the grant money back?
No commission. Come on in. Come on in.
The chair had to ask.
There we go. Wow.
It's
All
a
right.
big group.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. All right.
Keep writing more grants.
Yeah.
Keep bringing money in.
Well, it's way back from the beginning, it's in the way in the agenda item.
Yeah. Okay. We pay people a lot of money to write that.
I know.
All in place.
Planning.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. And with that, we'll go to item 6.2, resolution of appreciation for Senator Ana Caballero.
Yeah, unfortunately, at the last moment, Ana Velasquez, the district director, had to not be able to attend today. So we do have a resolution and I will be presenting it Friday afternoon at Steinbeck Center. If you'd like, I can read from the resolution for the record. Sure. Whereas Ana Caballero, after serving on the City of Salinas Planning Commission, was later elected to Salinas City Council in 1991 and then elected mayor in 1998. And whereas Ana Caballero was elected to the 28th Assembly District from 2006 to 2010, again elected to the 30th Assembly District from 2016 to 2018, elected to the 12th Senate District from 2018 to 2022, and then elected to the 14th Senate District from 2022 to present, encompassing all the areas of Pajaro, Salinas Valley, and areas within the Central Coast. And whereas in 2008, then Assembly Member Caballero introduced AB 644, transforming the governance structure of the Monterey Salinas Transit Joint Powers Agency to the Monterey Salinas Transit District, providing representation on the MST Board of Directors to all Monterey County jurisdictions and the opportunity for MST to raise over $180 million in local funding for transportation programs for seniors, veterans, and persons with disabilities through Measure Q. Whereas throughout her 27 years as an elected leader representing Salinas City Council, Salinas the Mayor, State Assembly Member, and Senator Ana Caballero has consistently supported policies, programs, legislation, and funding initiatives that enhance and improve access to public transportation for the communities she served. And whereas Senator Ana Caballero has made substantial and lasting contributions to the improvement of public transportation throughout Monterey County, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors gives its sincerest appreciation to Senator Ana Caballero for her continued support and best wishes. Adopted. Thank you. Complicated number of assembly districts and senate districts because of the redistricting. That took a lot of research to get that one.
The accomplishments.
Oh, my, amazing. So we wish her well.
Thank goodness the retirement will go through all of those, irrespective of the regions.
So, thank you, board, for approving that. Ana has been great to MST and has helped us with various legislation. Sometimes was a deciding vote on legislation that's been important to MST and public transportation. So I really hope to have a moment with her and thank her on all of your behalf on Friday afternoon.
Okay, thank you, Carl. Thank you. Okay, with that, we will go ahead and move on down to reports and informational items. 7.1, do we want to go through these one by one or?
No, I know I can just give you the monthly report. In the monthly report, we do have every quarter I do give you an update as far as where we stand with your board adopted policies for the new fiscal year. That's included, and you'll see that we're making a lot of progress on a lot of projects and moving things along, as well as ridership continues to increase almost faster than we can keep up. And sometimes, so that's all good stuff. So, and again, just continues to be an honor to work for this board and to lead this organization. So thank you for all your support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. We will then go ahead and move on to item 8.1, and which is board reports, comments, and referrals. On so the first one, 8.1, reports on meetings attended by board members of MST. There's a handout from me for my report. Jeanette will, then if she hasn't handed them out.
In case anybody wants to see.
Okay, thank you. So I did attend the APTA Transform conference in Southern California. And I did just want to point out that there was, under safety and security for bus drivers, there was something called Zero Eyes A1 Intelligence that was kind of very informative. And what it was it was for bus drivers. When bus drivers exit the bus, that they have a GPS panic button signal for drivers if they do need help, if they were, in any danger. And this intelligent could go through the bus's digital camera system, or picks up cameras, other cameras that could interconnect. And it also notifies for anyone if they had a firearm on them. So it doesn't identify a peace officer if they have a holstered firearm, but I just wanted to kind of bring that up, Carl. And the event was very informative. They had a great guest speaker at the first session, opening session, Myra Servino, and she was a human rights activist and goodwill ambassador of the United States nations and champion of victims of social justice. So I just thought that seemed to fit in with like sex trafficking and bus transportation and all that there, and kind of our safe place deal. So it was just really informative. So I just wanted to pass that along.
Thank you. And just with regard to GPS enabled silent alarm panic button, MST buses have had those installed since 2003. It is a physical button. I'm sure there's an AI app driven application that's probably out there that's, somewhat maybe superior today, but the technology's been there and has been used effectively by our drivers for 2 decades. And we are in the process of looking to upgrade that entire communication systems, because it was cutting edge in 2003, not so much now, but it's still getting the job done.
Thank you, Carl. 8.3 board member referrals for future agendas, and
Actually, Marianne,
did I
comments
miss
at 8.2, because I have a
I'm sorry.
question.
Oh, I missed that one. 8.2, back to 8.2. So 8.2 board members' comments and announcements.
Okay, my question, it's actually a question, and it's directed, I believe, to Michelle regarding the MST circulators. According to our projects for action plan status update, it's going to be completed by the end of this year in Gonzales and Soledad. My question is, would it be possible to get some type of press release or an informational sheet so that we can give it to our residents? I mean, it kind of goes back to what we all talked about of how we need to make sure that our residents are aware of what's going on. And I want the verbiage to be done by you so that they understand how this is going to work. Because I'm already starting to get questions about it, and I have answered some of them, but I want to make sure that we're kind of consistent in how the language is.
Yeah, our marketing team did prepare that. Vince is the project manager and I believe he sent that off to city staff.
Okay,
So we can circle back and give you a copy as well.
that'd be great.
Uh,
I
so
can
we-
get it from city staff. I just want to make sure, because I think what we plan to do, you know, everybody talks about let's get it out there on social media and all that, but a lot of our residents don't use social media. So we have to make other arrangements. So we put them in our utility bills. And I think that if we do that now, we'll be able to put them in the December utility bills, which is what I want to do. So,
Okay, we'll
okay,
follow up
great.
with you directly.
Thank you, Michelle.
Director Leho, and then we'll go to Director Barrera.
Go ahead, I don't want to be a gentleman.
Director
I
Barrera.
am honored.
Veterans first.
Yes, thank you. Talking about veterans.
Age before beauty, right?
I have both. Next Monday, we're celebrating and honoring our veterans in Salinas. It's gonna be a great day. It'll be a week from today. Also on the 19th, City Council, the City of Champion, Salinas City Council is gonna honor our MST volunteer navigators. There's 3 wonderful volunteers that are really, they go all out, and I saw some of them at the Senior Center, Recreation Center, Salinas. So we're gonna formally honor them and thank them for their good work. Also, a happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Next month, you're gonna miss me because I won't be here, so it'll be a quiet meeting. Councilor Orlando Osorio will be here on my behalf, and I'll be visiting my mama. She wants to see her son.
Oh, that's good.
You're a good son.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't forget to.
Yeah, I wanted to just bring this up. I talked to Carl about it already, and during our September Employee Recognition Month, it was the best example of why this is needed on our buses. So we recognized an employee who pulled over one of our buses safely. But in that story, they said it was a passenger. Well, the rider was having an overdose, but it was a passenger who had Narcan and administered it to save that person's life. So not only our bus driver was heroic by pulling the bus over safely, but that rider certainly deserves recognition for saving life and carrying it. But that brought the conversation about carrying Narcan on all our buses.
Yeah.
And the training's online. It's very easy. We checked, and I conveyed this already with Carl, the behavioral health department would supply these because they're free. The state gives them to us free, but it just seemed like a good policy. And I think Carl was already moving on this already, but we just haven't had a formal conversation on how this could potentially save more lives in the future. But that example gave the best illustration why this policy is needed. The other two last things I want to mention was I want to thank MST for providing free bus rides. Tomorrow is election day. And I think KION had a story last night about free bus rides for residents on election day. So I just want to thank everybody for making voting as easy as possible. And even on social media, your team, your staff created all the stops and all the routes that take to get to the ballot drop boxes and to the polling places. So thank you for that as well. And last but not least, I want to just say happy birthday to our esteemed chair and mayor of San City, Marianne Carbona. If you give her a round of applause.
Happy birthday.
If you want to lead it.
Happy birthday
to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
That's a blessing. Oh, okay. I think we have one more comment, Director Emilio.
Thank you. The ditto comments, and I just, you know, I was between council meetings. I didn't miss any. I was traveling through the Midwest. Just anybody's ever been to Wyoming, it's great. And visited the Wyoming federal prison where Butch Cassidy was incarcerated, and it was unbelievable. But what's interesting about it, and some of you know that I was a former cop, and it's interesting that when we went to, my wife and I went to a restaurant or anywhere, there were signs that said, "Please keep your firearms in your car." And you're allowed to carry firearms in Wyoming. And many of you probably know this, but it was a little, as compared to California, it was just amazing to suddenly see, even when we went to the federal prison, which is a historic monument, there was a big sign. I took a picture of it. Keep your firearms in your car. This is that restaurants and everything. So you're allowed to carry. And I saw a vest in a clothing store. It was really nice. I was thinking of buying it, but it said, conceal your firearms in the pocket this way. I thought,
Yeah.
wow. It was eye-opening. That was it.
Welcome to America.
Yeah, welcome to America.
We carry Encinitas.
Not in.
No other comments, Director, our general manager.
Yeah,
would
real
like to
quick,
say something.
in response to the Supervisor Alejo's November 12th, your Board of Supervisors should be receiving an agreement from County Health that will allow the Narcan kiosk to be installed at the Salinas Transit Center and other locations. So look for that on your next board agenda, and then we'll be ready to go. We've been working with Shiva in your health department to move that forward. So looking forward to that. And then in mention of Veterans Day, next week I will not be in the office for the entire week. I will be my daughter, Captain Olivia Sidoric, is getting a promotion, and she asked us to attend. And unfortunately, she's stationed at Fort Shafter in Honolulu. So I have to attend. There.
What a bummer.
It's Happy Veterans Day week, so I thought I'd throw that in. So thank you. Let you know.
You'll have to bring us all back a souvenir, Carl, maybe a
Sure.
pineapple,
Maybe
so
a-
bring a couple cases.
Concealed
back.
weapon.
And Carl,
Yeah.
taking
Yeah.
transit, right?
Honolulu Transit token. I can-
Yeah, there you go.
I want macadamia nuts covered in chocolate.
Yeah, there you go. Mm.
Okay, I'm beginning to regret this.
So we'll go to back to 8.3, board member referrals for future agendas. If there's anyone here, I will kind of just through the meeting, say that we heard of the Narcan policy. So keep that in mind. We heard about, a bus insulation policy. I don't know if something has to go to, a board, committee or whatever, Carl. I'm just throwing it out there. From me, regarding the decommission of the bus stops, or which we heard with earlier the agenda. So we heard about the 300 bus stops maybe going away. Could we identify, or can you work with each jurisdiction and let us know if they're out of compliant ADA or whatever, because you do have that data or information, just so we know that they can take that to their city council so that they know a little bit ahead of time.
When our staff report is complete, as Michelle said, she was about 90% there. So when that's complete, we'll give you a breakdown by jurisdiction, so each of your jurisdictions will know what and where and possibly how much.
Perfect.
And then just a reminder, there's a comment made about those gorgeous blue benches. Those were all provided through our Clean California Grant Initiative, and on November 15th, I believe is the date, Friday, we'll be having a ceremony in Marina at the Marina Transit Exchange that was updated and renewed with some of those funds. That'll be happening, and MST staff, unfortunately, have this commitment in Honolulu. I will not be able to be there for that, but Lisa Reinheimer will be ably stepping in to kick off those ceremonies.
So you're gonna be gone that long, so you're actually gonna
I'm
be
not gonna go,
gone.
yeah, it's a long ceremony.
Okay,
Probably about 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
thank you. With that, there's 9-1, there's attachments that can be viewed online. There is no closed session for 10. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
Yes.
Illinois, there's this.
So it's after these.
Bicycles go